afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. I wish I could say that I was going to discuss a less controversial topic after John's great speech. However, that is not true. I'm going to try to convince you today why climate change is real. So first off, let's ask ourselves, what is climate change? Well, climate change is the idea that we as humans are producing greenhouse gases in the form of carbon dioxide based on our overusage of fossil fuels. And before I give you the facts today, I have to say that originally I was a skeptic. I come from a family of skeptics. My dad and grandpa think it's all a hoax. And it wasn't until about 2006, when I went to college, that I started really reading and doing a lot of research on climate change and what the facts really were behind it. Here you see a picture of me with two of the foremost researchers on climate change in the world. On the left is Dr. Richard Muller, who runs an institute at Cal Berkeley here. And he's developed quite a moxie for developing standards for climate change research over the last several decades. On the right, I'm not sure if any of you recognize him, quite famous, Dr. Amory Levins. He's been on several TED Talks, YouTube channels, on the news, advocating for us to make adjustments on our fossil fuel usage based on climate change. I'm also studying physics here at the Naval Postgraduate School and getting a graduate certificate in energy. So I hope that based on my meetings with these gentlemen and my studies here at NPS, I'm at least qualified, hopefully, to present with you the facts on climate change today. Jack, I see you getting a little nervous back there.
No, I'm not nervous at all.
Okay.
The fact that you can't define climate change tells me you don't know much about the topic.
Okay, Jack, okay. So I've only have 5 to 7 minutes, and Jack just took another 30 seconds from me there, so.
And you called me out, that's
all
why.
all I have time to talk about today is why should we care, what are the facts, and who agrees with these facts. So first off, why should we care about climate change? Well, first and foremost, it could affect us and every generation after us. There's a Native American quote that I think of a lot, which states, "We don't inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children." And we need to think about what kind of world we want to give our children and their grandchildren. I'm sure you can also think about the substantial, profound global impacts that could follow from something like climate change, talking about the economy, energy usage, whether we switch over to renewables like solar and wind, or nuclear power, or just in general, start to wean off of fossil fuel usage in general. There's also resource destruction and animal extinction, which I'm sure you can imagine could easily happen based on the temperature changes that could affect the delicate ecosystems that inhabit the earth. And then there's also the accelerated destruction of forests and increases in extreme weather. Now, I will admit, I'm not sure if any of you have seen the Al Gore movie, An Inconvenient Truth. A lot of this stuff is really embellished. I wouldn't take many of the facts from that. He talks about extreme weather a lot. However, this definitely has the capability to affect us in our lifetimes or in the near future. So let's start looking at what the facts are exactly. We have the capability with science to look at, based on ice layer readings in Antarctica, the carbon dioxide levels of the last 500,000 years. And you can see here, this is where we're at right now as of 2015, much higher than we've been at any point in the last 500,000 years. That's not disputed. And this is something that I got from NASA, but this is really just the tip of the iceberg, pun intended, with the facts that I plan on giving you today. And it's all from the NASA website. This is stuff you just go to nasa.gov. I got a climate change link that's right there, and you can find these facts and do your own research on it. To continue, global sea levels have risen about 7 inches since the early 1900s. Earth has steadily warmed since 1880, which is the first year that we started a standardized system of recording the temperatures. The 10 warmest years have been since 2005, and as many of you remember in the news when President Obama announced that the warmest year was 2015. And then third there, the oceans have warmed about 1/3 of a degree Celsius since 1969, which doesn't sound like a lot, but we're talking about very delicate ecosystems in the ocean that could be easily affected by this. To continue, Greenland has lost at least 36 cubic miles of ice since 2002. Antarctica has lost about 12 cubic miles each year since 2002. The global ocean acidity has increased by over 30%. And you might be asking yourself, what does that mean? That doesn't sound like that could affect us. But there's mollusks such as clams and oysters who are easily affected by ocean acidity levels, and it could essentially wipe them out if we continue on the path that we're on. And then snow in the northern hemisphere over the last 5 decades has greatly decreased based on satellite imagery from NASA. What I want to draw your attention to here is this bold red line, which is in the month of June in each year since 1980, the square kilometers of snow in the northern hemisphere, and you can see that it has greatly decreased. So let's talk about, I've given you some of the facts, which scientific bodies in the scientific community, nationally and internationally, agree with these facts. Well, I'll give you a few. American Physical Society, American Chemical Society, National Academy of Sciences, World Health Organization, maybe you've heard of them. Turkish Ministry of Science, I've looked into this. The Turkish Ministry of Science for decades was not on board, but recently they've actually become pretty big climate change activists, which is pretty impressive. The American Meteorological Society, Carl, they're on board. And you can see it's a pretty long list. I could have filled 10 slides with all the organizations that agree that climate change is real and it's caused by humans. So I think it's easier for me to tell you who disagrees, which scientific body disagrees, and there's not one. There's not one scientific, international or national body that has formally dissented with the fact that climate change is real and it's caused by humans. Now, some people might tell you, well, there's about 2% of scientists globally who disagree with climate change, and that's true. But to put that in perspective, about 2% of Americans think that the Holocaust was not real. So 2% of, that's just to put things in perspective, about 2% is the level of dissent you're looking at within the scientific community, and there's been no formal dissenting from any organization in the scientific community. So in conclusion, first and foremost, whether you're convinced of climate change or not in my speech, I think we can all agree that the potential impact of this for our generation and future generations is undoubtedly great. Some of the facts I discussed with you today: sea levels rising, ocean temperatures rising, global temperatures rising, and ocean acidity levels also rising. I also talked about the snow in the northern hemisphere. And finally, there's not one international or national scientific body that has formally disagreed with the idea of climate change. Now, you're welcome to do your own research. However, I think that based on these facts, my personal opinion is that climate change is real, it's caused by humans, and to not do anything about it would be a grave mistake. Thank you.
Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and especially John, where are you? There you are, hidden over there. You were to present a persuasive speech that combines logical support for his or her viewpoint with a strong emotional appeal. That speech should focus on self-interest of this audience. The speaker has also been asked to avoid using notes, which you did not do. If possible, in addition to your oral evaluation, please, that's for me to do the evaluation, which I have so done. Logic, absolutely. You had a logical sandwich style. You told us what you were going to tell us. You explained in between. You ended with telling us again what it was you were talking about. Logic, logic, logic. I think you missed a little bit on the emotional appeal, which is where your body language would have come in. Lots, you mentioned beforehand that there would be a lot of PowerPoint slides. That's something I have been Toastmasterized, told not to do myself, so I'm guilty of that myself. To that speech time, you should go 3 or 4 slides at the absolute maximum. So that would be something I do. If it had been my speech, the thing I would have gotten rid of would have been the graphs. I think it would have been more interesting if you gave us something like 30% of the acidity. That would be like coming to here on me. I mean, like to here, that much salt water, that's 1/3 of my body. Imagine that we're walking around with that much more acidity. In fact, I could have used him too. I could have said, right to here, stand up and use that's some acidity right there. But just using that kind of thing with bringing the audience in, rather than you started with, I think that I'm guessing that you might have thought that the previous speaker had something on you. So I think you were already nervous, and you're giving something completely different. You alluded to the other speaker and then contacted Jack, I don't know why. But the thing that made you uncomfortable, and then it brought Jack into it, you did lose time for that. So that's something that could have put you over, don't do that. I mean, if you know Jack hates your topic, who cares? Nobody cares if Jack thinks anything.
Friendly disagreement.
Gotta keep things interesting.
It does, it might, but nonetheless, that's getting me off topic, which is a wonderful speech, logically delivered. I would like to see more emotion. You were worried about turning your back on us, you didn't, but you did just stand here kind of concerned and moving around and doing things like that and telling us, because climate change, and another thing I would change the title from why climate change to just climate change is, I mean, it is real, so not why. I mean, you're telling us that it is real. That would be something that I would have done. But your logic, you had the pictures of the scientists, marvelous, I mean, that's it. And then your last thing was, who believes that this is happening, or who doesn't believe? Who doesn't believe? Nobody. Every single scientific body, slam dunk, you did it. Congratulations, a wonderful number 9 speech. Guess who comes next, guys? Congratulations.